All right, folks, thanks for joining. I'm Travis Jurek. I'm a product manager here at Peplink, and today we're going to be giving you another Pep Talk, a sales presentation about managed service providers. And joining us again today, we've got Michael Maitland, sales director at Frontier. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Going great, Travis. Thank you for having me again. Look forward to another pep talk. We've taken a few months off for the summer vacation, but look forward to getting back into these. And MSP and the managed service provider space is really exciting one for this channel. So looking forward to dig in.
Absolutely, yeah. MSPs are just a huge part of our business, and so more and more we're just trying to find ways that we can align with MSPs and find ways to work together and solve problems. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I think, Mike, I think you said it great earlier. There's really no one size for an MSP. There's so many different focuses and so many different, I guess, makeups of MSP. It's just a broad term.
Yeah, and I mean, like you say, it's not one size, no one size fits all, and really that falls into PepLink and the solutions we bring to the table because we're really unique in the fact that we can help, almost all of them with what their focus is, and they all kind of roll into one, one answer, or not one answer, but just one, just really platform that can help them across any vertical or application.
Yeah, it's fun to see the different verticals of applications. I mean, we see some MSPs that are just focused on, chain restaurants, and some that are focused on just, employee bus Wi-Fi, and so there's really general use cases like just office failover, and there's really specific use cases. But I think no matter what an MSP may be focused on, there's a lot of things that matter to just about any MSP. There's a lot of challenges and things that just really make or break an MSP, and so I think in their world, integration with other vendors is a huge deal. MSPs are always trying to put solutions together and use different vendors. But then once they do that, they need to make sure that those things work day to day, ongoing, beyond that. I don't know,
Yeah,
Mike.
Yeah, definitely. And then these things just kind of hit on top of mind subjects that we talk a lot with MSPs, the reliability and the performance, how important that is, the ability to scale, really helping them grow their customers and their customer base. And, security and compliance always top of mind with customers and partners. Cost and how you manage that, always so important, and the scalability, and then support, right? With Peplink rolling out more 24/7 support, and the channel helping out with that, right? And really bringing better and stronger support initiatives to the table to help MSPs grow and scale quickly when that may not be one of their best factors, right? So
Yeah, so there's a lot here, right? There's a lot here, and we're not going to talk about all of this right now, but we're going to dive into these topics in more detail and try and speak more specifically to how we're able to help MSPs in these different areas.
exactly.
But I think one thing that everybody sees out there, and it's not just MSPs, right? It's MSPs, it's their customers, it's me, it's Peplink. Everybody uses Zoom, Teams, WebEx, these different collaboration platforms. We all need these things to work better. We all need our VoIP calls to work better. A lot of us are running, point of sale system, Square, Stripe, some of these other different online or in-person payment platforms, and these things just have to work. And so, for any MSP, when you work with Peplink, you can confidently come into a customer and say, hey, we're able to make these things work better. We're able to make these things much more reliable, much more consistent. And so that's the message that I think just about any MSP is going to be able to run with and have a customer really understand that, right? Again, we've all seen those bad calls.
Yeah, and to that, if a user isn't experiencing any challenges, the MSP is probably not going to hear from them or can handle those issues on their own in the background. And with some of these
Mhm.
capabilities with Speed Fusion, those users don't experience any challenges with the Teams, with the phone calls, with the POS. And again, that means they're not calling. That means they're not um, bringing up the concerns and letting that MSP kind of handle things in the background, but yet experiencing it like they need to, so that they're happy and just focusing on their work and their day to day. That's what
Yep.
our tool sets do.
So yeah, I think the biggest value proposition, or one of the biggest value propositions with Peplink, is we're able to fix these problems. And that's something that just no other router company can really say. You get another cellular router out there and they can't fix these problems. They don't have the technology to do this. And so this is just a huge way to stand out from the crowd and be able to come to your customer and say, look, I know your team's calls get kind of messy sometimes. We're going to fix that. So it's a great foot in the door for just about anybody who's had those problems, and lots of people
Exactly.
have. Um, Another thing that we see out there a lot in the MSP world that's really gained traction lately, and not everybody's using it yet, but again, just really, really rapid growth, is with Starlink. And again, especially in that MSP space, Starlink's kind of a new technology and a little bit unknown for a lot of people. So it's really been an opportunity for MSPs to dig in and learn the technology quick. And when you pair it with Peplink, it just works even better. So Mike, I know you've seen some examples of MSPs out there using Starlink right now.
Yeah, and in a big picture, it's more about innovation. Things and technologies change, and Peplink's really able to quickly adapt to those and incorporate those into their solutions and their capabilities. But Starlink's definitely one. I mean, it's one thing that we see gets people and companies into more rural areas, challenging connectivity spots, and Peplink's ability to work with Starlink and provide even failover from Starlink, because it's not a perfect solution yet, is really something that's important. And there's some exciting things coming down. And even in the new firmware, you see some capabilities now with Starlink. But the biggest thing to me is Starlink's another technology, and there'll be another one someday down the line. And Peplink just integrates these seamlessly as they come to the table to really allow managed service providers to do what's best for them and their customers, and use all these things, whether it's 5G, Starlink, whatever it is. It really opens up the door and makes it easy to incorporate.
Yeah, you've got a common platform that you can use to interface with those different technologies, right? It can be different technologies in different locations, but it's the same experience, it's the same technology, it's the same platform behind it. Yeah, I remember you mentioned like a construction company I think you guys worked with that was
Oh,
doing something with Starlink,
yeah,
or
yeah.
maybe
So
not
we,
a construction company, an MSP focused on construction.
yeah, an MSP that works with construction companies that basically in rural northeast the U.S., and they've
Mhm.
started to incorporate Starlink, but the customer wasn't experiencing it at 100% success, right? There was issues, there was challenges, but it did open up the doors to utilizing it. And exactly that's where Peplink comes in, because Starlink incorporate it, right, and use it
Mhm.
when it's there, but there's still challenges, like I mentioned before. And so how do we add other connectivity options to the table to help kind of smooth all that out? And that's what they saw as kind of a key factor, and why Peplink's a strong solution for them, and one they want to move forward with.
Yeah, I think that combination of Starlink and 5G is such a game changer. I mean, neither technology is perfect, right? But they are both pretty awesome, and they both enable really new capabilities. And so, yeah, when you're able to leverage the two together and kind of combine the benefits of them and use them to back up the maybe drawbacks that happen from time to time. Again, as an MSP, you can deliver things that you just couldn't do last year, frankly, right? There's just a brand new world
Exactly.
out there of new possibilities with these technologies. And again, you need something in the middle to smooth them out and make them behave the way customers want them to, but that's where we come in.
Exactly.
Um, Another thing that we see a just ton of activity out there in the MSP space is just 5G in general, but fixed wireless access. The carriers out there have released some pretty attractive plans on the 5G side, so that the price points are getting a lot more realistic, and customers are starting to really embrace these connections either as a primary connection or as a backup for their wireline, because it is actually fast enough to deliver wireline type speeds now. So you can actually look at it as a failover or a primary connection realistically.
Yeah, and our conversations a few years ago was always about failover. How do we accommodate that fiber line going down or being struck by a backhoe or whatever cable line it is. Um, it's truly moving away from that. Yes, they're still utilized, they're still incorporated into the solution or the network, but you can feel confident and you can take your business critical application, really run your enterprise on these wireless solutions, whether it's 5G or whatever you want to add, and you can truly do it without wire today. A lot of times it's still a combination, but really just depends where you're at, and that's pretty cool to see and live through.
Yep. And so we'll talk about this in more detail in a minute here, but our platform is able to use all of these great new carrier plans that have been released for fixed wireless access, but we also have a built-in connectivity platform in our device. So we've got our own SpeedFusion Connect 5G LTE connection in there as well. And so the routers ship with connectivity built in. You don't have to use that built-in connectivity option, but the point being, you've got multiple different ways that you can get your customer connected and find those different revenue streams by selling and enabling cellular data connectivity.
Yeah, exactly. And using it as a combination is a lot of times a great solution. So
yeah. So one thing that we see a lot of out there is there's just different terms in the space, in terms of like how we talk about this hardware and how we're using the hardware, or how we may be deploying it for a customer. And so there's words like adapter or router or gateway. And I think the message that I want to make clear is our devices are basically all of those. So you can use this BR1 Pro 5G. This is a 5G router. It's a 5G gateway. It could be a 5G adapter. You can check a box and it's an adapter, right? You can plug it into an existing firewall or router. If the customer's already got a Cisco deployment and they just want to add 5G and you're the MSP bringing 5G to them, cool. You can use the Peplink BR1 Pro 5G as an adapter and it'll just pass everything through to their firewall. But other locations, they might need an actual router or firewall there. And so I think gateway and router are kind of interchangeable. Basically, that's going to be the core piece of your network and manage all the connectivity for your network when it's used like that. But again, this one device, it's simple and it can be used for all three different scenarios.
Yeah, and that adapter piece is the kind of the most interesting there, because we get left out of a lot of spaces sometimes because it doesn't say the term adapter, but each Peplink device can be utilized, just like Travis said, as an adapter, and in the future it has the capability to be extended into something more if needed. But that integration is a huge piece to the Peplink ecosystem and being so simple to add to any network.
Yep. And I think another thing that we really see is in the business world, there really is a need for a different class of an adapter, right? The carriers all have their free device that comes with these plans. And if you talk to a carrier sales rep, they're usually pretty willing to admit like those aren't great devices for a business. And they've seen that just through trial and error of businesses trying them, and they're just not, they're more of a home device, right? And so they don't have that 24/7 always on, always connected, day in, day out type of reliability. And so, businesses are going to need a little bit higher end device to maintain that business level expectation. But again, the BR1 Pro 5G is there and able to do that. But I think that's a common mistake that a lot of companies will make, is just try and make the cheap thing work. And then they get frustrated with the technology and say, oh, the technology doesn't work. Well, no, maybe it was just a bad device. And so that's really where MSPs can come in and show customers a better way, and not have to put them through that trial and error stage of trying those cheaper devices. But budgets do change, right? There are people who just can't afford everything 5G now. And so I think, Mike, we talked about scalability is just a huge deal. And so that's really where the Peplink product line comes into play, I think, for MSPs in a big way.
Yeah, they can do stuff that they couldn't do with another vendor or couldn't do before, right? I mean, that you taking a BR1 mini or a like from another OEM single modem device, there's limitations in some of the things you can do. But now with 5G and having dual 5G modem devices like the BR2 and even the BR1 and different things, you truly, like mentioned before, you truly can bring all business applications over to wireless and the failover. It's quite awesome to see.
Absolutely. So yeah, LTE, 5G, there's tons of options in the Peplink lineup, and there's a lot more options that we're not showing here. You can go much higher into, like more traditional rack mount, enterprise style routers. So there's a whole lineup there available, but it's a common platform. It's the same features, it's the same functionality, just different sizes, different speeds, and different 5Gs or 4Gs or
Yeah.
all the different connection options. But
Yep.
again, it's all a common platform, and you manage that all from our in control system. And so that's our cloud-based management. And so it's a centralized system. And so it doesn't matter which model you've got. If you've got 1,000 BR1 minis and 500 balanced 20s, you can configure a single SSID for Wi-Fi for all of those units with one rule. You don't have to create a policy for every model. You can manage it as a single unit in so many cases, but still have that ability to control and customize things too. So tons of tools there. Mike, I think there's a question that you asked earlier that I really liked. And I don't know if you remember what you asked earlier, but
when I look at it, I'm not sure in question, but I think it was
the
along the
truck roll
lines.
question is what
Yeah,
I'm getting
yeah.
at.
It's when we're talking with MSPs and you're having these conversations, one of the big pain points is, really, how do you limit truck rolls? How do you limit cost from support and these different things? And Peplink, with the first reliability, but second, the platforms and the tools that they bring to the table, really, they'll never 100% eliminate truck rolls, but the more we can decrease that, the more the MSP is going to be successful, and it's definitely successful in the customer's eyes, right? And these tools really give you the power and the capability to limit that as much as possible.
Yeah, like you said, like limit truck rolls, right? Because those are expensive, right? If you have to send one of your technicians out to a customer's location, they're not working on anything else. They're driving most of the time. It's just a huge expense to an MSP to have to send people. And so, you build these cool wireless solutions and you deploy them all out everywhere. And you want to know that that's going to work tomorrow and the next day still too. And so as an MSP, you need to make sure that that's working. You need to have tools to make sure that it's working and know before your customer does if it's not working.
Yeah.
And again, tools remotely so you can figure out what's wrong without having to go there. And so that's what In Control does for an MSP. In the top right corner, you can see a screenshot here. I thought this was fascinating. Again, it's that user experience that matters the most when you're an MSP. Your customer has to be happy. They have to think that what they're getting is doing what they need. And so this In Control has a built-in speed test functionality. So you deploy a unit out there and you want to know, hey, is it still fast, right? It was fast the day that I deployed it. I did my site survey, but is it going to be fast on Monday morning when they get there? Is it going to be fast Tuesday morning, right? But this shows our speed test capability here. We had a speed test running on this unit, this 5G connection. And basically you can see it gets about 300, 400 megs all through the night, all through the morning. And then as soon as business hours hits, everything just drops right down to about 75 megs a second. So depending on when you did the install, you might think, oh, this is this site's getting 350 megs, but the reality is they're really probably only getting 75 megs per second during the day when they're there. So you have to be able to see these tools and know about these things. And so you can set thresholds and alerts so that if a customer site isn't performing the way that you expected it to or they expect it to. So
Yeah. You said something really important there, Travis, a little bit ago, and that's being proactive, right? If you're proactive and can jump on things and start looking into it, or even contact the customer to let them know of something before they have to contact you, you're just looking better in their eyes, and you're doing more to be a successful partner for theirs.
Yep, absolutely. And so In Control gives you those tools to be proactive, to get the alerts, to get the notifications, and get the data right then and there, so what's wrong and how you can fix it. Another nice thing with In Control, so this is all hosted in the cloud, but you can also run this privately with Peplink. And so for some MSPs, obviously security is a concern for everybody, but for some MSPs, their customers are extremely security sensitive. If they work in healthcare or government or public safety industries, they're not often able to accept using a public cloud service as a management system. And so with Peplink, that's okay. We can deploy the management system in just about any private environment that the customer may need. And that includes things like AWS GovCloud. So just tons of flexibility for those. There's more demanding and more sensitive customers.
without losing functionality too.
Yeah, exactly. Every tool that we have in the public version is available in the private version. And another great example of that is InTouch. And so InTouch is a feature built into InControl that lets you log into any devices behind a Peplink. So you put Peplink routers out at all your customers' locations, but then you've got IP cameras, you've got maybe a different firewall, you've got servers, all kinds of different devices, phones, lots of different things that you want to log into remotely. And so with Peplink and InTouch, you can do that without any extra software, any extra licenses, any VPNs. It's going to ride the secure management connection from InControl and let you log into remote desktop sessions or phone admin web interfaces. So just one more tool, again, like you said, Mike, to avoid a truck roll. So you can go a layer deeper in the network again without extra setup or infrastructure.
And it's easy. And you can have it set up in minutes and have that access at the touch of your finger. So
yeah, exactly. You don't have to set anything extra up other than just tell it the IP address of the client you want to log into. So another solution that we've got that MSPs I think will really find valuable is our SpeedFusion Connect data plans. And so again, all of our Peplink devices now include eSIM functionality in them. And so they include this eSIM built in that has connectivity to all three carriers in the US. And actually it's a global SIM, so it goes beyond the US too. Again, T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, you can connect to all three of those with this SpeedFusion Connect data plan. And we've got a pooled option. So if you've got a customer who's got 10 locations, you can pool all of their data connectivity so that their failover aggregates and you pay per gig on the actual usage. You're not having to buy a bucket for each location, and maybe one location goes over and the other location doesn't really use anything. You just pay for exactly what you use every single month. And so it's just really straightforward, really common sense. And again, it's all three carriers. So you've got a platform and a connectivity solution ready to go that you don't even have to have a contract for. You can just buy these. You don't have to work with all three carriers. And so there's just really easy ways that our partners and MSPs can get into the data revenue streams. Really, I mean, if you're an MSP and you're not selling data, I think you're missing out on a huge opportunity. Number one.
Yeah, definitely. And this also goes to the innovation Peplink's always working on. First, it was just allowing this, right? But for a while you couldn't pool, and it made it challenging, especially for deployments with multiple locations. And the pooling aspect is really just a feather in the cap to make it so much easier, right? And I agree with you, Travis. If you're not capitalizing on the data piece, you should. And you should talk with your VADs and your customer or partners of how you can help or get involved in that. And this SpeedFusion data pool or SpeedFusion Connect is just a great way to add to the other connectivity options that you bring to the table for your customers.
Yep. The other, I mean, we see some MSPs use this purely as a troubleshooting connection, right? If their customer's connection goes down for some reason and they're not sure why, they can activate an eSIM over the air, log into that remotely and get back in and troubleshoot it. And so we see people use these pooled plans for a lot of different use cases. But again, it's just that ability to pool and not have to pay per SIM per month, just kind of trashing that whole business model of just you're going to pay for what you use every month. And it's just, like you said, it's just easier.
Yeah, I love the term ignition SIM. Hey, as soon as you plug it in at a site, it can connect, you can access, and then you can configure it however you want and use that as, a first failover or just an access if everything else fails. So.
Yep. But yeah, it's an option there, but we fully integrate with all the carriers and all those plans too. It's not, you don't have to pick which one you use. You can use any connectivity option you want, really.
Yeah.
I think on that note, private 5G is another area that we really see MSPs starting to take action in. People think about private 5G often as like another, 5G is a WAN technology, but businesses are deploying 5G. Private 5G is more of a LAN. It's like a Wi-Fi replacement. It's like super Wi-Fi almost for businesses. We're seeing them deploying it in manufacturing spaces, just outdoors, large campus type networks. But yeah, they want to be able to use this because it just covers so much better than Wi-Fi. It roams so much better than Wi-Fi. And so there's just lots of reasons why we're seeing MSPs and businesses really embrace private 5G this year. And all the hardware that we've shown you already is capable of connecting to private 5G or private LTE as well. So a few other things that we see out there in the market, just some examples of Peplink and MSPs that we're working with. We've got there's folks like Royal Caribbean deploying multiple Starlinks, multiple 5G so that they can stay connected as they move in and out of port, in and out of cellular coverage, but enabling that really high speed, truly, work great internet anywhere that these ships go. That's an extreme example, but again, it's the same platform. You can do this stuff at a big scale or a small scale.
Yeah, and I think that's the important piece is, there's a lot of opportunities where it's a couple sites or small offices that it works great for, but it's fun to show that it can really scale into anything, right? And
Yep.
and that slide before really shows that where you're handling thousands and thousands of connections on a ship and giving them something that they've never had before, which is easy and fast connectivity.
Yep. So yeah, if it's, big deployments, big vessels, or it could be a whole bunch of small locations, right? So again, Peplink can scale and we can handle these types of projects. And, there's all kinds of people winning projects like this already. And so, MSPs that aren't looking at Peplink, there's just a ton to gain there, and just so many examples of other folks that are just having great success with it already.
Yeah, the opportunities are out there.
So I'll put a bunch of takeaways up here. I think there's just a few things. Number one, SpeedFusion solves business problems. SpeedFusion is Peplink's unique technology, right? And so we're able to come in with a unique value proposition right away that nobody else with a cellular connection can do, right? Meraki doesn't solve your Zoom and Teams problems. Even adding a cellular connection to a Meraki won't solve your Zoom and Teams problems, but Peplink and SpeedFusion will.
Yeah, and you can even use them together, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That happens all the time, and that's a totally valid use case. Number two, Peplink's got the global connectivity built in. You can just ship routers over the air, activate eSIMs. You can activate the built-in one, or you can use In Control to push your own third-party eSIM. So yeah. We've just launched third-party eSIM capability support, so you can load that QR code or activation string right from In Control,
which is a very exciting development. I mean, that's going to open up the doors to so many more opportunities. Just the ease of deployment, it's really quite cool.
Yeah, if you get 12,000 BR1 minis to get out the door, if you don't have to put SIM cards in them all of a sudden, that's a huge time saver for an MSP.
And cost saver, yeah.
Yeah, that somebody has to do that, right? You have to pay that person. So yeah. And then, avoiding those truck rolls, things like In Touch, In Control management, those are your tools to avoid truck rolls. And last but definitely not least with Peplink and MSPs, security is a huge deal. So number one, Peplink can run everything we've shown you can run completely in a private infrastructure, zero internet access. So even the most security conscious customers are able to say yes to Peplink because, again, we're different. We operate and build our devices to behave in those private network environments so that you don't need internet access. So yeah, very, very friendly on the security policies, things like PCI compliance, lots to offer on the security side. So we'll open it up for questions.
Looks like we got a couple already, Travis.
Yeah.
Some MSPs want to implement SD-WAN solutions. How can we position Peplink in this arena? Which are the advantages regarding your SD-WAN solutions compared to some of the leaders?
This is a good one because, number one, SpeedFusion is SD-WAN. We don't focus on that term as much ourselves anymore, just because in our eyes, it's a really focused market, right? SD-WAN is a relevant term for an enterprise market at a very, very high-end enterprise market. But more generally, everybody needs SpeedFusion, right? They need their Zoom and Teams to work better. And so that term SD-WAN doesn't really speak to folks with those just kind of day-to-day problems. But yeah, the short answer is Peplink is an SD-WAN solution, and we can compete with those other SD-WAN focused vendors. There's plenty of examples where we've beat, much bigger names in the SD-WAN space because our technology is able to do things easier. We're more fast to embrace things like Starlink, 5G. Most SD-WAN companies don't have good 5G integration. Most of them don't have any Starlink integration. And so I think that's one great example of where we're able to utilize those new modern connections much more efficiently and get better performance out of SD-WAN than the traditional vendors who really built it around wireline connections.
Yeah, and the costs are so much higher with some of those enterprise solutions, and yeah, they're good solutions, but there's so much there. A lot of times, not everyone needs it, right? And Peplink truly can do SD-WAN. It checks all the boxes, right? But we really chose to use the messaging, right? As if we can enhance a current SD-WAN solution, we can be a standalone SD-WAN solution. We can really do it all with the portfolio and the products and the solutions that we have in the portfolio.
Yeah, I think cost is a huge part of it, Mike. I mean, I was talking about kind of the terminology because we see this as technology that everybody needs, not just the large enterprises, but for everybody to be able to get that, the cost has to fit too. And so yeah, that's the other huge difference in Peplink's SD-WAN solution is our cost is so much more practical for companies. And I think that'll be very obvious when you start pricing out different options.
Yeah, especially as you scale. I have another one. eSIM is already available. Does anyone in the market have this capability? Cradlepoint, Meraki, Fortinet.
I've seen some very limited examples from maybe one vendor, like one vendor with one carrier. I've seen, again, very limited examples of eSIM, but I don't know of anybody who's just third-party eSIM compatible where you can just log in and load a third-party eSIM to the router right out of the gate like that. I don't know anybody else who does that. And I could be wrong, but yeah, I'd love to see an example if there is.
Yeah, and it's probably something that's going to become more
Mhm.
available as we move forward, obviously. But Peplink's doing such a good job at implementing into its current platforms and making it easy, making it scalable, making it cost effective and time effective or efficient, right? So really taking that next jump of making it and putting it in your fingertips to be able to do it all quickly.
Yep, and I think you said it earlier too, innovation, people want it, so we did it. We pushed, we got it done quick, and that's what we try to do all the time.
And I think that's an important thing to touch on, Travis, is innovation. And a lot of innovation comes from the partners, from the channel, from the customers that are using this day in and day out, and how receptive Peplink is to feedback and ideas and suggestions of, hey, maybe something's missing. It may be a big miss, it may be a small miss, but bring it to the table, bring it to the forum. That's where features, that's where products, that's where things are hashed out and thought of, right? So
Yep.
don't stay silent if there's something that's missing from the solution to really make your life easier. Bring it to the table, whether it's through your VAD or through the forum, and let Peplink know, because that's really where things are created and how they are.
Yeah, whether that's technical or more business related, right? If it's just a pricing model issue or something, there's lots of ways that I think we can still do better to help MSPs. And so, we're a company that listens to that feedback from the market. So yeah, very much not supposed to be just a closed gate of here's what we have to offer. But yeah, let us know as always if there's things that we can do to improve your
Definitely.
business.
We've had a
Those
few ask for a copy of the presentation, Travis. So I don't know if you were going to
Yeah.
make that available.
Yep, anybody who registers will get a copy emailed to them or get a link to it emailed to them. And then we always put it up in the forum and we always put it up in the Peplink YouTube channel as well. So within a day, everybody who registered, whether they attended or not, will get those things sent out to them. And yeah.
Great.
Other than
We have a
that,
question by eSIM being disabled in 8.3, right? And for troubleshooting a device offline, that makes it hard. Well, 8.4 is coming. I think the answer. Do you know if that's off by default in 8.4, Travis, or
I'm
how
not
that's
sure,
handled?
but yeah, if there's an issue that sounds like a technical, that sounds like a ticket. If there is, a use, if I guess if the implementation isn't exactly user friendly yet, open a ticket and make that concern known. And yeah, again, we listen and we move on those things. So if 8.4 doesn't have it exactly right, we will definitely push and get it better in the next one.
Yeah, make it right.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there, folks. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you again with our next pep talk.
Yeah, thank you.